Hey guys, Zack here, and this is my review of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Okay, so this episode is interesting and a little bit weird. So, the episode actually starts off with back where we left Melone, where he is actually collected a sample of Bruno's blood, and concludes that now that he has it, he just needs to find a suitable donor. And eventually we do find out what he's talking about, because at the same time there's this very well-off woman who is on the train and is annoyed that it isn't moving, and obviously there's a couple of other passengers who are wondering what's going on, because obviously the conductor has since disappeared and he kind of died, so we have no idea what happened anyway. But the passengers are very confused. At which point, while she's actually sipping some wine, Melone actually winds up slipping into her cabin and pulls out his laptop and proceeds to ask her a couple of questions. So this is where things get a little bit weird, because he starts asking her very personal questions, and she has no idea who this guy is or why he's in her cabin, and all she knows is that she wants him to leave. But Melone is very insistent, and eventually starts going through her purse to actually find out what her birth date is, and eventually finds her driver's license and concludes that he's 25 years old, and concludes that that's a very good age. At which point, but it's to this point where she gets annoyed at him for going through her things and proceeds to slap him, which only proceeds to turn him on. And he actually concludes that she is in excellent health if the strength of that slap is anything to go by, and then licks her palm licks her palm as well to kind of freak her out, while also kind of sort of getting a taste for what her blood type is through that, which is weird, But then he also starts going into. But then from there, he actually starts looking into more of her statistics to actually figure out what kind of person she is, and after a while concludes that she is actually the ideal parent to actually go into, and points out that she's very perfect for actually taking on Bucciarati, which she doesn't actually fully understand what he's talking about, but it becomes apparent that she's becoming less annoyed and increasingly scared by him, and eventually it does wind up coming to a head when he actually winds up asking her what her favorite sex position is in regards to the Kama Sutra, at which point she realizes that this has gone a little too far, and thinking she knows where it's going, she proceeds to try and climb out the window, but Melone only responds to her by activating his stand, which is revealed to be the laptop itself, which proceeds to attack her, and we don't really see what happened to her. All we know is that Melone pushes a button on his computer, and then a thing happens that seems to generate some sort of homunculus thing, but we don't actually find out what happened to her. Well, we do find out what happened to her, but it's not important. But I'll get to that in a minute. I'll get to that in a minute. But meanwhile, the Team Bucciarati has since using Coco Jumbo to hitchhike inside a truck, and they're currently driving, and as they're kind of riding along in the truck, they're actually kind of taking in the atmosphere, and Mista, Giorno, and Narancia are actually kind of talking about what's everything that's gone on so far. With Narancia pointing out that it seems like something has happened between Trish and Bucciarati, and Giorno points out that likely isn't the case, and points out that there's something that's likely a little bit more to it than that, which is that Trish has a lot of questions, and Bruno doesn't really have an answer for any of them. To be perfect, and at which point Giorno kind of goes into an internal monologue, pointing out that she's very much that he does believe now that since it's now confirmed that Trish is a stand user and doesn't fully realize it yet. He wonders what else he can actually glean information from that, and also proceeds to wonder if there's any sort of information that he can glean from the fact that she is a stand user, and if that'll help him figure out what the boss's ability is as well. Since he's been doing a very good job of hiding it, but that is very much his goal for the end of the series. He wants to take down the boss and take his place, so that he can run Passion his way and stop the drug trade. That is his main goal, in case you've forgotten. But At which point Misa merely points out that they're probably just cranky, pointing out that he does find it enthusiastic that nobody is actually whining or anything. But it's at this point where, in case in point, his stand literally shows up, and Sex Pistols number 5 tells him 3 and 4 to actually tells 3 and 2 and 3 to actually share the burger that they found with him, but which Miso is initially confused by, because as he points out, there shouldn't be any food in there, much less a hamburger. But then, as it turns out, they actually went outside the turtle and swiped the cabbie's hamburger and are now currently eating it, which causes Miso to understandably freak out, because sure enough, the cabbie winds up going looking for it and eventually finds their turtle hideout. So, in order to make sure that they're not found, he lifts his hand off the turtle and smacks the dude in the face, which causes him to crash his truck. And everybody notes that the truck has crashed and wonders what happened. And as Misa asks Misa if he saw anything, since obviously he was the one watching the whole thing. But Misa merely lies and says that he didn't see anything, and that he kind of took his eyes off the dome for a minute, and that because something could have happened. Maybe the truck stopped, who he doesn't know. But in any case, eventually the rest of Team Bucciarati figure it out and have a look. But in any case, while that's happening, the woman on the train that Melone attacked, for lack of a better word, or rather to avoid a better word that I'm hoping that apparently isn't actually a thing. The woman wakes up, notes the signs of the attack from when she was attacked by Melone Stan Babyface, and but after checking herself, points out that nothing happened, implying that no sexual assault was involved, which is a good thing, I guess. But she does wonder where Melone actually went, since in hopes that he gets what he just deserves. But in case, she also notes that she has a bit of a splitting headache and wonders what's going on. And then we kind of sort of find out what happened, when this is confirmed by Melone himself, where it's revealed that the woman has not technically in a pregnancy kind of way, but she has given birth-ish nonetheless to a secondary stand for Melone to use. This is where it gets weird. But the stand is interesting in itself, and that other people can actually sense that it's there. For example, she feels a lump on the back of their head, and it's actually revealed to be whatever Babyface created with her, which Melone actually refers to as a junior. And once it's awake and knows what it's and kind of knows what it's doing, and about how she remarks and after hearing it's quote unquote mother rant a little bit about Melone and how she wishes he was dead, and that she'll kill him if she sees him again. The junior actually starts asking Melone a couple of questions about what it means to kill, and what a piece of shit is. At which point, Melone starts educating the what I'm presuming to be the young baby stand. He starts educating it, teaching it how to kill, teaching it what killing is, and more effectively, how to use various weapons various common objects to actually kill somebody. Which Babyface actually winds up taking in stride, but then tells Melone that it needs to relieve itself, and Melone just tells him to go ahead, which reveals that the stand can be felt by other people, and can be seen by normal people, not just stand users. As we find out, the stand actually relieves itself, and the woman actually winds up completely feeling the for lack of a better word, it pisses on her. But she actually feels it piss on her, and starts freaking out a little bit, wondering if the roof is actually leaking. But the conductor who is sent, or rather, I guess, the guy who's been watching everything, been watching all the stuff and was watching this going on. I don't know what the actual term is, but point is, the guy who's in charge of running the train, he notes that the woman that something strange seems to be happening to the woman, and asks her if she's all right, but she just kind of freaks out and doesn't really have any sort of answer. At which point she leaves her cabin in a huff. But it's at this point where the stand actually decides that it's hungry. With Melone merely telling it that it's too soon and that it can't actually eat yet. But it decides that it's hungry and that it's going to snack now. At which point it displays its ability to cube people into pieces, and then proceeds to just kind of dissolve and eat its mother, quote unquote. And we don't actually see what the sand is; it just kind of disappears. And and as we find out, the guy goes to investigate and just sees the woman's belongings on the floor, but has no idea where she went. And then here's a motorcycle, which he then steals and goes to drive off and goes to go find Bucciarati, since as Melone notes, the blood that was used to create it has since kicked in, and it now knows where Bucciarati is, and it's now going to go hunt him. With Melone pointing out that it probably can't be helped, and then proceeds to give it some instructions on who to kill and who not to kill. Pointing out that there are 4 stand users that it needs to take out, and Giorno, who he doesn't really know the powers or abilities, or hasn't seen his face yet, so it has no idea what his abilities are. But he does point out that the one person he can't attack is Trish, and tells her to bring her back alive. Everybody else can die for all he cares. But and with that, the stand then proceeds to go and leave, and then proceeds to go and confront the Team Bucciarati. Meanwhile, the rest of the gang, sans Giorno, Bruno, and Trish, are actually arguing about how they're actually going to continue to proceed. Since obviously, Miso wrecked their one mode of transportation, and he has no idea how they're actually going to continue going forward. And Narancia suggests that they steal a car, but which Abbacchio is kind of against, But it's at this point where Giorno actually has a very brilliant idea, and case in point, he then proceeds to summon Guilt of Experience and starts smashing up cars into pieces, and then uses his ability to create life to turn all of the pieces into frogs. Pointing out that he's got that if it looks like 100 cars have actually gone missing, that they'll think it was a mass larceny or something, and concludes that now they can steal a car no problem, since when he eventually undoes his ability, they're just going to find a bunch of scattered car parts all over the place, and that should buy them some time to get to Venice no problem. And Abbacchio is impressed, although he doesn't admit it, and then proceeds to hand Giorno the turtle, pointing out that he's going to go look for a car, and the other two proceed to go and join him. Which, meanwhile, Trish and Bruno are still inside the turtle, and it's at this point where Trish decides that she wants to leave, but Bruno merely tells her not to, since it's very dangerous and they don't know what kind of threats they might face out there. But at which point Trish actually decides to ask Bruno a question, and points out that it's probably a very stupid question, but asks him to answer it regardless. At which point, Bruno decides that he likely won't have much of a choice anyway, so he might as well hear it. At which point, she asks him what he has to do if she needs to go to the bathroom. For pointing out that if Bruno just expects her to go a diaper. But Bruno, pointing out that he hadn't actually thought of that, decides to actually use his sticky fingers to turn the closet that they have into a bathroom inside of Coco Jumbo's Mr. President. Basically, he just makes a hole. He just uses his sticky fingers' ability to make zippers to just make a hole into either his pocket dimension or into the rest of the turtle, and tells her to just kind of go and relieve herself. Pointing out, and also he points out that he isn't entirely sure where all the bodily waste is going to go, but that since it's a turtle, it'll probably be fine, and even remarks that it'll probably gain nutrients from it in the process, which kind of creeps Trish out a little bit, but decides it's better than nothing. At which point Giorno actually interrupts, poking, which is visualized by him just peering into the gem on the back of the turtle. And proceeds to actually tell Trish and Bruno that they're currently in the process of looking for a new mode of transportation, and that he will get back to him soon. Bruno thanks Giorno for his report, pointing out that they'll be back on track shortly. But then he knows that Trish seems to have gone missing. He knows that she was literally just in there with him, and notes that she seems to have disappeared, but he has no idea where she is. But eventually he does find her arm being dragged into a cabinet, and rightfully panics because he realizes that somebody is attacking them, and he has no idea what to do. So he proceeds to open the cabinet where she's being pulled inside and discover Babyface's ability, having chopped her up into cubes, and discovers her dissolving into pieces. And then when he tries to actually fight back against it, he himself is attacked and turns into cubes as well. And Giorno doesn't see any of this at first, nor does he know that they're actually being attacked, until he actually notices a motorcycle that he was fairly certain wasn't there before, and indeed it's the motorcycle that Babyface took to get to the location. But he then tries to call Bruno and Trish and wonder what's going on. But then when they give no response, he quickly realizes that they're probably in danger, and summons Gold Experience and sends him inside of Mr. President to go have a look. With Babyface actually sending a bunch of messages through the computer interface on Melone's end to let him know that Giorno has actually found him, and that he has no idea what he's actually supposed to do to defend himself. At which point Melone merely suggests that he just kill him, pointing out that if he is indeed found, that's probably the only thing he can do. So Giorno actually winds up trying to find Trish, and he eventually finds the cabinet that Trish and Bruno were found in and attacked, but discovers that they're actually missing. And more to the point, he winds up getting attacked as well and winds up losing a part of his throat, which means he's actually unable to breathe or call for help. And sure enough, Giorno actually winds up collapsing from this, being unable to actually signal his friends and let them know what's going on. He can't actually send them a word of warning. They just see him waving his hand, and Naracha merely points out that's probably just a signal for them to hurry up and get the car. So Mystic continues working on hotwiring the car. At which point Giorno quickly realizes that he's now unable to call for help and actually needs to try and fight back against the stand to try and figure out what's going on. At which point, in order to further impair him, it actually winds up stealing his eye. It actually winds up taking the piece that contains his eye and actually pulling it away from him. And he winds up losing his eye, and quickly realizing that how bad the situation currently is. He then just decides to actually use his gold experience to try to actually come up with a great idea. He actually does wind up coming with a brilliant idea, which is to actually extract the key from Coco Jumbo's back, which would cause every living thing to actually currently be expelled from the turtle. And that actually winds up being a problem since as Babyface currently puts it, he's a stand. He can't actually be pulled out of the turtle normally, but he currently has Giorno's eye, which enables Giorno to actually emerge him, and he winds up emerging in a swarm of cubes and reassembles himself as a rock. At which point Giorno tries to fight back against the stand to actually try and get a one up to try and defeat it so that it actually doesn't wind up hurting him. But all he really does is wind up fighting a very one-sided battle where the stand repeatedly breaks itself off into pieces to avoid damage by actually breaking up the rock that it's in. And then proceeds to actually take more pieces of Giorno's body by taking both his legs so they can't run, and then another piece, and then when Giorno tries to break up the rock to actually try and get sustained, it then proceeds to burrow into a nearby wall, using its ability, and proceeds to take another part of Giorno's throat, which causes him to die a little bit faster. And Giorno quickly realizes that he isn't able to actually fight back against the stand, and proceeds to wonder if it's invincible before the light of life actually winds up leaving his eyes. And the stand, fully satisfied about the fact that it has finished off Giorno and now has Trish, proceeds to actually get ready to leave on its motorcycle and bring Trish back to its master, only to discover that Giorno isn't quite dead. As we find, and what we find out why is because Giorno actually decides to actually winds up finding up a brilliant idea to actually use his stand, and because of Babyface's ability, his stand was actually able to undergo an evolution, and he was able to figure out more capabilities for his stand. Case in point, Giorno winds up using parts of his outfit to actually wind up fixing his leg and the pieces of him that were missing, to actually kind of do a bit of a patchwork job to fix himself up. Babyface understandably panics because he has no idea what's going on with Giorno, but he does relay all the information back to Melone, telling him what's going on about how Giorno didn't die, and on top of that, he figured out what Giorno's ability is, which is to create life, and that it's the exact opposite of what Babyface's ability is, according to itself. At which point, Babyface actually tries to flee on the motorcycle, but Giorno merely responds to that by actually going in and actually attacking the stand and breaking the motorcycle. And it actually has to disappear and retreat. Actually winds up hiding away. Where we do eventually figure out what's going on, but it merely tells him that at this rate Giorno is actually going to take the turtle back and wonders what it should do. But Melone merely tells him to take the turtle, and when that happens, to just kill him. At which point, Giorno does wind up taking the turtle, in large part because the fight with Babyface has actually caused a gas leak from the motorcycle to actually slowly make its way toward the turtle, and Giorno immediately takes a dive for the turtle to actually defend it and pick it up. At which point, Babyface actually reveals that it was actually hiding inside the gasoline, and uses its ability to actually ambush Giorno, and when Giorno tries to defend himself with gold experience, Babyface just chops his hand off, which does cause Babyface to kind of proclaim its victory over Giorno, pointing out that now that he's incapacitated gold experience, that he actually stands no chance of defeating him, pointing out that he scared him even for a little bit, but now he has the advantage. But it's at this point where Giorno actually points out that as it turns out, he let Babyface take his hand on purpose. And then proceeds to at which point Babyface kind of realizes too late that Giorno is using his ability to sneak up and ambush him. And all while Giorno explains that now would be a good idea to actually defend himself rather than trying to attack Giorno. At which point Giorno points out that he doesn't know if it was fate or not that he actually wound up meeting Babyface, but thanks to him, his stand actually underwent an evolution and actually gained a new ability that it otherwise wouldn't have. At which point Babyface proceeds to wonder what's going on, and then proceeds to realize too late that Giorno has actually turned his severed hand into a piranha, which then proceeds to emerge from Babyface, who realizes too late that Giorno has already infiltrated his body and breaks him out from the inside. So yeah. This episode is interesting for another number of reasons. First and foremost, Babyface is just an interesting stand in general, and that it's an inherently safe and somewhat invincible stand. As established, Babyface's main ability is to create a secondary stand to fight its enemies with, and then at which point it creates a fully sentient stand that Melone can just sick on his enemies. And it is a little bit terrifying for that reason, and it's very difficult to fight against actually because of the way it works. But it's assumed that Melone can do this indefinitely, since obviously attacking the remote stand isn't going to actually hurt him at all. And obviously he can just do that indefinitely to create as many stands as he needs to until the job is finished. So yeah, he can just kind of excel at hit and run tactics. But and also there's an interesting thing here with how the stand itself actually works. So I should establish this. There was no sexual assault involved with this. The stand uses blood to create its homunculus baby, and on top of that, the woman notes that nothing happened, heavily implying that there was indeed no sexual assault involved. It just kind of injected her with some blood and used that to create a baby. That's it. That is the story, and we're sticking to it. But yeah, Babyface, as I said, Babyface is very weird in that regard. It's very weird and a little bit uncomfortable until you realize how it works. But yeah, it still is a little bit weird, being perfectly honest. It just makes a baby. That's its main ability. That's weird in and of itself. But what's even weirder is that anybody can see the stand itself. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. It is part human after all. But yeah, the stand itself is very weird. But I do kind of like how it works. I mean, the process itself is very weird. But I'm not gonna say that that is not a weird stand, but it is. But I do like it. So in any case, yeah, that's my review of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter in the description below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter in the description below. Be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out. And you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks that I'm always saying thanks. So just say, yeah, be sure to go check those out. Link is down in the description. And finally, if you want to see more content from me, then there's actually 2 ways you can do that. One is by checking out my Twitch. I am planning to stream relatively soon-ish, hopefully. So if you guys want to absolutely check that out, by all means, link is down in the description. And also, you can just type in the link that you'll see on the end screen in a couple of minutes. Finally, the other way you can actually see content from me is by actually checking out the videos linked in the end screen. The top video is the most recent one. It may or may not be this one. Whereas a Bob video is the video recommended to you based on what you've already seen from me. So if you want to try something new, or see more of what you like, then be sure to check both those videos out. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace!